Off we go on a Wednesday. It's the 18th of March here inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. And yet again, another opportunity for you guys to enter yourself into this month's $100 gift card that can be used on our merch store. And that's thevaultpod.com/shop. We'll randomly give that away at the end of the month, and we'll tell you about how you can enter yourself in coming up in just a bit. Sarah, lots to get to today, as always. The second week of free agency doesn't appear to always be as busy and news-filled as this week has been, but that's what's happening this year. And Maxx Crosby, for the first time since last week's debacle, has spoken his side of what went down in Baltimore on his podcast. So I have prepared a number of clips for us, censored them accordingly because he likes to let it fly. And we're going to give our conversations, our perspectives to what he had to say yesterday in an episode that dropped on his show. From there, a free agent visit at the tight end position to Baltimore, reportedly, that has everybody talking from a tight end perspective, and a reunion that never was, but almost was. That and a whole lot more is what we have coming up, including Penn State Pro Day footage of one Dwayne Ledford and maybe a prospect that you might be interested in. When I say you, I already know you are, my co-host, maybe in the live chat as well. So that's what we have coming up. If you could like the video on your way in, we'd appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. We're closing in on 30,000 subscriptions. We'd love to hit that number pretty soon here. And let's get off and running, shall we?
Yeah, and just a shout out to Douglas H. Brown, who's in the show before it even starts, giving out gifts and giving out 50 spots. So we'll read this on the other side in just a minute, but just want to give him a shout out and all the others, new members, Dreams, all you guys. Thank you for already populating the super chat before the show even really gets underway. But obviously first we got to get to business with Maxx Crosby. And this is a big deal. I feel like this needs to be addressed because it is the first time that we get to just hear his story. And Bobby, I listened to his podcast. This man is transparent. He just says what is on his mind. I honestly, the only thing we can really do is let it run. There's probably a good 11 minutes when he's talking about his experience in the Baltimore Ravens facility. You can go to his podcast and check it out. As Bobby said, and I appreciate you, Bobby, taking the time to edit this all down and making it clean for my kids to be able to listen to later today when they get home from school. But we're just going to let it run for about 5 minutes to get his point of view of what happened, and then we'll react on the other side. Because I do think, as transparent it is and how he's definitely entitled to his feelings and his perspective and all that, I do feel like the story feels a bit incomplete. But let's listen to it and get to it on the other side.
Yeah. They flew me to DC.
Yeah, and this is actually the that's the travel component part that we'll get to. I think part 2, the tell all, which again was over 8 minutes. I cut down to just south of 5. So here is again that, and we'll get to the travel side of things in just a bit because that was definitely a polarizing part of his commentary as well. But first, from Maxx on this whole thing from his side.
This is the thing, bro. Everyone's got their own theory, conspiracy theory. No one really will ever admit at either side what the real truth is or whatever. And ultimately, it doesn't even matter. I am where I'm supposed to be. I know that. I went there, had my MRIs. Like before I left, I wanted to see the head coach and just chop it up, talk football, talk ball. He's a defensive guy. Never met him before like that, so I wanted to chop it up. So I didn't get to meet with him till the end of the day. I didn't get to see the GM at all. I thought I was going to see him when I first got there. I didn't see him for 5 hours.
So he didn't come out the whole time you're testing or doing your physical. Everyone's talking about the GM never came once out to see you.
And I don't know why. I'm not going to speculate. I didn't see him one time. I even asked the girl. I was like, "Where's Eric at?" I want to say, you know what I mean? He just made the trade. I didn't see him for 5 hours. So I go and do my thing. At the end, they're like, "Yeah, I'll take you up." Joe was like, "I'll take you up and you go see the head coach, whatever, just before you leave." I was like, hell yeah. I was like, that's what I want to say what's up to him. So I went back up. I dap him up, and you could just tell, the energy was a little bit off. And the GM was standing in, the hall, in the room next to me to the right. And that was the first time I seen him. And, I'm just in my head, this is a whirlwind. I'm so excited, fired up. You know what I mean? This is a new opportunity, whatever. And you could just tell the energy was off. Like I dapped him up. He had like a blank face. And I'm like, okay. I'm not thinking anything of it. Maybe he's just different. I don't know. I don't know him, whatever. Yeah. I go into the room. They sit me down on the couch. And he's like, man, I don't know how to say this, but, you know, one of our doctors has concerns with, you know, with the results and whatever. And like with your knee, like some of them have, you know, are concerned about the future and da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, we really want you and this is what it is. But, you know, we're just going to have to get more and more opinions. And I was like, the first thought in my head, like, I was terrified because I'm thinking in my head, like, what the f***? Like, Neil Elitrosh, best surgeon in the country, like the best of the best. He's done all my surgeries for the most part. Like, that's my guy. Like, yeah. I go to his house. Like, that's my dude. Like, he's the best. I haven't even got to talk to him, or I hadn't got to talk to CJ at that point. So it just kind of hit me. I'm like, what the fuck? Is there something wrong? Like, I'm freaking out. Like, low key, deep down. Yeah. I'm like, I can't get another surgery. I can't, like, my time on, like, this is fucked up. They tell me, like, yeah, we're going to get back to you. Like, we're going to get some more opinions and things. Like, we obviously want you, this, and that. And I'm like, all right. Like, okay, so we'll see. Yeah. I get back to the hotel, bro. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what does this mean? Like, I'm calling whatever. Then I talk to Neil. Neil calls me, and he called me way down. He's like, Max, don't listen to any of that shit. He's like, your knee is great. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, or even ahead of schedule. He's like, you're doing everything right. He's like, they know you had your surgery 9 weeks ago. It's obviously if you get an MRI, like he's like showing me the actual literature of like, this is where it needs supposed to be at from a meniscus repair. Like there can be MRIs that could be misleading because it's still fresh in surgery and this and this and that. He's like, listen, you're doing everything right. Everything's going well. We're going to keep sticking to the plan. He's like, you will be back by training camp. That has been the damn timeline since the beginning. That hasn't changed. So now I'm like kind of calmed down, but at the same time, I'm like, well, what the now? Yeah. Like, all right, I'm calmed down in that way. That was my number one concern. I'm like, I need to make sure I'm good. Like, what the fuck? I've been doing everything, bro. I've been on crutches for 2 months. Like, you don't understand that part of it. Like, that's a lot on mental and everything. So that at that moment, I was scared. So I'm sitting and go back to the hotel. I'm with Rach. I'm like, okay, let's get some food, do our thing. Well, like we ate lunch. We chilled for a little bit. I'm chilling on my phone. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, bro? Like, I'm talking back and forth with CJ. He's like, we're going back and forth. We're talking to the doctor. Da 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 da. He's like, then the final call, like after probably like 2 hours later, he's like, yo, like, I'm gonna just be 100% real with you, Doug and CJ. He's like, I don't think this is gonna go the way we expected it to. Like I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, they're probably gonna back out of this. I'm like, all right. So I'm sitting there waiting for a call. I can't even sit still, bro. I'm like, what the f-? So I took a nap, like 20-minute nap.
That's impressive.
I called CJ back. I always find a way to get a nap.
Yeah.
Call CJ back. He hits me. He's like, yo, they're backing out. And it's crazy because their guy like called me. One of the Ravens guys called me and it's like, yo, we're trying to figure this out. You know, we're gonna get this done. Don't worry. Like 5 minutes later, CJ calls me. It's like, they're backing out. I'm like, holy shit. So I'm like frozen. I'm like, what the f-? I'm livid, confused, the whole nine all in one. I told him, I'm like, I'm trying to get out of here, bro. Like, what the f-? Like, I'm supposed to have dinner at 6:30. I had to wait till like 6 o'clock. And CJ called the Ravens. They're like, no, they'll send a jet. Like, they got a bigger one tonight. They'll send you back tonight in like an hour and a half if you guys can get ready. I'm like, start packing that shit. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby. What was your reaction when you first listened to that?
How wild is it towards the end there that someone he had a relationship with at the Ravens called him to tell him, almost reassure him that the deal was going to go through, they'll find a way, and then his agent minutes later calls him and says it's off. Who would that have been? I found that fascinating. And I actually, as I did my instant reaction to this last night, I didn't even talk about that because there were so many other components that were getting run. And look, I don't think anybody, I certainly won't blame him for the traumatic emotions that he was going through because it's multi-layered. And this, I don't think you can properly prepare yourself for what he was told. So I get all that. We'll get to the travel side of things as well. I didn't think he put his best foot forward, came across as a little entitled, a little spoiled, a little glitz and glamour type, which we'll get to in just a bit in terms of the Ravens travel arrangements for him. But this is kind of what I expected because I didn't expect any of this to be hunky-dory, sunshine and rainbows. But it is a big switch up and it's a big change in tune here with what we knew of him prior to this going awry. And so I definitely wonder who made that call. I definitely wonder if that was sort of a last-ditch effort. I wonder if there was some back and forth there in the 11th hour, last minute. But that's certainly something that sticks out to me. And I'm sure you'll start to talk about the DaCosta element and that component of this because you spent time in that building. And so while you weren't directly involved with player negotiations per se, I think you have a good sense for where Eric might be and what the protocol is for the front office in terms of what they're doing on any given day like this. So maybe you can shed a little bit of light there.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And I just want to echo what you said for Max. Like, if you listen to the whole thing, you know that he kept referring to it as his mentals, right? Like, this takes a toll on my mental. This takes a toll on my mental. And so from Max's point of view, it's not like I don't know. Like, I just can imagine it's a saga that's going on for months. You're in front of the headlines all the time. You've been on crutches. You're rehabbing. You've got a family. And then that night you're going out to celebrate. You have family and friends in town when you find out you're being traded to celebrate 6 years of sobriety. So from his point of view, where he's not a doctor, he is listening to his doctor. He is like been wanting a trade. He finds out that night that it's the Ravens. And then 5 days later, it's not. He's traveled out there. So from his point of view, I really don't fault him for feeling like, man, this was a wild ride that was not fun. Okay. So I have no problem with his perspective on how things went down. That being said, he even kept saying, like, I don't know why this, and I don't know why that, and I don't know why this for the Ravens side. And so those that have already determined, that are already absolutely certain that the Ravens just did them dirty and that the Ravens really just had regret, then that's the way they're going to read it. And they're going to fill in the holes that Max left, as he should leave them because he doesn't know the other side. Now, when it comes to the GM stuff, Bobby, I worked there for 13 years. I've seen a lot of players arrive at the Ravens facility, from first round draft picks to big name free agents, to smaller time free agents. When they have in a big person that comes, this is who I've always seen greet them. Usually it's a player personnel, assistant or member of the player personnel staff that is with them from the beginning, from the airport. Then when they arrive, it's usually a big part of the PR staff. Usually it's Chad Still. He's the vice president of public relations. And then usually the position coach. I never once saw Ozzie Newsome come down, and I don't care how big the player was. I never once saw the head coach meet them at the car or meet them at the front door. I've never once seen that. So for those that don't have that context, they might be like, oh, well, even when Max arrived, they already knew just because they weren't at the front door. I've never seen that happen. If it has, I missed it, but it's not normal protocol. People can say, well, it's different when you trade 2 first-round picks. Maybe. But again, I never saw Ozzie Newsome down there being like, ooh, like, you own this place. We owe you everything. No, you again, show them respect for sure, but it's not usually the head coach and the GM. So anybody that's using that as like a sign that they already knew the deal was going to go right, that's just false based off of history. Number 2, and I don't know that because we had cut that up to kind of bring it down, it is important to lay out the timetable. So he arrived in the morning, was there, he said, for about hour and a half. And so he greeted a bunch of people. He said he talked to a bunch of coaches and he talked to players that were there. And then he had to leave to go do the MRI. So a lot of people feel like, I mean, these NFL franchises, they may have a lot of money, but they don't have MRI machines in their facilities. I walked around in the training rooms. I've never seen an MRI machine. So he even says he has to leave to go to a doctor's office. I'm assuming it was MedStar. The Ravens are like MedStar. They have a partnership with MedStar. That's where their doctors are. And so you have to go off campus to go get the MRI. Okay. So he goes off campus and he has to come back. My guess is that when he comes back, the doctor has already called EDC. And he's like, hey, I saw something that I really don't like because these MRIs are live. They're getting a brand new MRI. And again, I know from his point of view, it makes him worried that he's like, wait, where's my surgeon at? He told me my knee is good. And again, this is all about long-term and what the Ravens saw, what could happen long-term. And so, of course, his surgeon's going to reassure him, and maybe he should, but his own surgeon put out a comment the day that the deal, I think the day after we got news that the deal was dead. And he said he respected the Ravens' opinions because all doctors have different opinions. So probably on his way back, Eric DaCosta is also struck by this because up until now, it seems like business as usual from what I've seen. It's all business as usual. So now all of a sudden, Eric has to scramble. So he's talking about it's like a 5-hour day. Well, now that by the time he's coming back from the MRI, I don't know how long those take, but he said it took an hour and a half to go out there, or to when he left to go out there. Then it's a 15 to 20 minute drive. Then he does the MRI. So how many hours into this are we already? Okay, not like he's just sitting downstairs waiting for 5 hours for EDC. He's doing stuff, and so is EDC. It's the first day of free agency. Okay, so Eric gets word. There are reports that the Ravens went out and tried to renegotiate with the Raiders and say, hey, I just got this from my doctor. So this is news to EDC too, if you're looking at it from his point of view. Now, if you have already decided that EDC is a bad guy, then this all sounds like excuses to you. But I'm just telling you what I've seen over the 13 years that I was there, and I have talked to players, and they've said this is usually how things go down. Okay? And so he gets the information. He's trying to call the Raiders. Sounds like he's trying to get a new deal going on. He also wants to get the new MRI out to independent doctors. So all of that's going down. And oh, by the way, according to Trey Hendrickson himself, the Ravens had already previously been talking to him about potentially having them together. So EDC's probably talking to agents there, plus agents with all the players that he's about to lose. There's Linderbaum that he had just been trying to keep. There's a gazillion things going on.
And it's day 2 of the legal tampering window within that 48-hour period.
Right. And so, like, if you want to believe EDC is a bad guy, go ahead. But there's a perfectly plausible other narrative or real story that's absolutely possible and, in my view, likely. Now, Max doesn't accuse EDC of any of that. He doesn't. He just says, I don't know why. Here's just my experience, and I respect him for that. Okay? So I'm sorry, but within a couple hours, EDC having all this on his plate, that's fine. So when Max says he goes up there and he finally gets to meet them, no wonder their energy's off. Like, is it possible that their energy is off too because they thought they were getting Maxx Crosby? And now he's in the building, and now they're told, and I heard this, Daniel Jeremiah just said it on his podcast the other day. When he was at the Ravens and he was a scout, they constantly said, scout, coach is coach, and doctor's doctor. So it's not up to EDC to be like, push back and be like, all EDC can do is send the MRI out to these independent doctors, and he did, according to reports. And so of course, once they're like, shoot, like we thought this deal was on, now he's up in my office. And like, of course the energy is off. Of course it is. And the timing doesn't sound abnormal to me. So anyway, I get all that. Then your point about the Ravens rep. I think this is actually a big piece that shows that the Ravens were trying to get this done. So when you say, I wonder who the Ravens rep was, my guess, and I have no clue, is one of the personnel employees who's working on Eric DaCosta's side, but has been the lead contact with Max throughout all the travels and all that kind of stuff. Because EDC is not the lead contact to him while he's doing all this other stuff. He delegates that out to his personnel staff. So my guess is this guy is like thinking, I can see Eric DaCosta is trying to renegotiate a deal with the Raiders. I can see he's talking to all these other doctors. I can see that we still want him. And maybe he's not totally up to speed as to what else is going on. But my guess is, like, if this was some elaborate plan, like, no, this rep is like, hey, we want you. Like, he thinks it's all going down still. So.
And remember, Eric did not answer Jeff's question directly last week when asked about whether or not he attempted to salvage, like renegotiate, as you're alluding to right now. That would check out with this call, right? That would match up with this potential call. Of course, he's not going to answer it directly to Jeff last week when he held that impromptu media session, but that does connect the dots in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, listen, it's not going to do the Ravens any good to come out and go through to a detailed transparency the way Max just did. It's like Max said, he's like, everybody has their mind made up. He's absolutely right. And again, I respect him for not trying to like say that the Ravens were trying to do me dirty, this and that. He just explained how he was feeling through each move of the day and throughout the 5 days. He's entitled to all of that. But because he can only say what he was going through, it does leave a lot of context to be filled in. And if you have already decided the Ravens are bad in this, you're going to fill it in with bad intentions. But if you have had some experience of what a normal visit is like, you're like, yeah, this all tracks. And it's It all tracks completely, especially if Eric DaCosta and his crew is blindsided too by it. It sounds like everything is going according to plan until he left, got his MRI, and then there's those few hours where EDC for sure is likely scrambling by talking to the Raiders, independent doctors, and other free agents.
And that brings us to the travel arrangements, which were also made on the fly, both times, really, because you wanted to get Maxx to your building that worked for him on a schedule that worked for him on the way over west to east. And then, of course, you definitely wanted to get him back comfortably after this all went awry. So much so, Steve Bisciotti offered up his private jet, as Maxx talked about, but also had a few things to say about the initial travel arrangements made. Here is another snippet from his podcast, The Rush.
They flew me to D.C. because there wasn't many flights. We flew first class. They flew me to D.C. because I was only straight through. We had to drive 2 hours from D.C. all the way to Baltimore after the 5-hour flight, bro. That shit was fucking weak.
Oh my
God. I'm like, damn.
Hold up,
you know what I mean? Like, you're sitting on a plane all day. You're like, I just want to go and lay down for a second, catch my thoughts. Bro, 2 hours in the car. I'm like, this is crazy.
That, on the other hand, Sarah, maybe not the best play on this podcast. Again, how is that going to resonate with blue-collar Baltimore? You're complaining about first class. You're complaining about, by the way, it's not your family driving. It's the chauffeur. It's the personal driver, Joe. This guy, Joe, did you know Joe from the Ravens organization when he was there?
There's a lot of Joes. I don't know which Joe it was. I'm assuming he's in player personnel again. But Maxx said how much he liked him. He's like, oh, this guy's dope. Like, because he was saying, hey, we've never traded a first round pick. We traded 2 first rounds for you. Like, we're trying to win a Super Bowl. He liked Joe.
He kept mentioning Joe. He liked Joe. You're right. It's not Joe Ortiz. Joe's very likable. Nope. He's with
in
the
LA.
Chargers. He's in LA with the Chargers. But that was his personal driver for he and his family. And look, having made that drive a time or two over my 10 years in the area, and I'm sure you can relate, Sarah, it can easily turn into 2 hours when it comes to DC, Maryland, Virginia, and Baltimore, driving gridlocked areas, highways, accidents, rush hours, you name it. That's how it goes. So this obviously, I don't think, landed as well with members of this fan base, deservedly so. He said, we had to drive 2 hours from DC all the way to Baltimore after the 5-hour flight, bro. That S was effing weak. And as you can see, Sarah, you provided this screenshot on the right-hand side of the graphic. And as he shared, Steve Bisciotti did offer up his private jet for the way back, and they left very quickly after all of this went under the table. So
right. This is the part that does come across a little petty. We've all been through this. Because he's right. It's like, it's a 5-hour flight. And with the time difference, he says it ate up 8 hours of the day. And then to have to drive that stinks for sure. It's annoying for all of us. But he even said, he goes, they were limited. He said it was the only direct flight. And I'm assuming that's first class. Because other people they've pointed out on Twitter, this is where we're getting into the weeds. If you've lived in Baltimore, you know this. The direct flights is Southwest or Spirit. And you're going economy on that. Like, what if they send him on Spirit without first class as he's rehabbing, you know? So he said there were limited direct flights. And by the way, they did offer him the jet on the way back. And some are wondering, well, why didn't they offer it on the way there? I don't know. All I know is that the entire Ravens brass was in Florida when this deal went down. Like, they made the decision when they were all doing their yearly, kind of end of year meeting in Florida. And so I don't know, was the jet being used to get all the front office back? Was that already being used? Like, who knows? But they offered it on the way back. They gave him first class. It was the only direct flight with first class. It stinks, but it is what it is. But what it does is try to paint a picture of like a Ravens organization that's cheap. And I'll just say this, and Bobby, you've covered the Ravens forever. I worked for the Ravens. Everybody uses the words first class when it comes to treatment. Like Steve Bisciotti does not spare expense. He does not. And so like this stinks for sure. It never would have come up if everything went through. It is what it is with scheduling planes. But when I tell you that is not, and I worked there, and even as a low class, if you want to call me a low class worker I wasn't a player, I wasn't a coach, I wasn't in player personnel, I was in media, and they treated me right too. Like, it's the Ravens. This isn't the Bengals being cheap and making you buy for your own Coke at the soda machine. I don't even know if that's true. Those are just stories we've heard. Like, the Ravens are first class all the way. This sounds like a scheduling flight thing that just ended up stinking on the way there. Like, it happens. It happens. But Ravens really are first class all the way. Ask anybody that's played here. That's just how they roll.
And this is as unique of a circumstance as you've ever covered in your multiple decades of following this team. And so maybe some grace is granted given those circumstances, given the unique nature of this, given how much of a magnifying glass this is now under, right? So, again, I'm not surprised in the slightest that Maxx has reacted the way in which he did. And I commend Eric for sharing his side in a more formal podium offering for local media to answer or get answers and ask questions as he did. And we covered that last week. And then, of course, to kind of put a bow on this conversation, the Vegas side of things is very interesting because now Maxx is back, and he was back in the facility at 6 a.m., according to reports that he also confirmed on that podcast drop yesterday. He was back in the Raiders building. And Nick Walters, from a Vegas coverage standpoint, has been talking about this online. Quote, "I'm here. I'm meant to be a Raider," is what Maxx said in that same podcast. And he said that wasn't saying so. Maxx Crosby, Nick says Maxx Crosby breaks the silence about recommitting to the Raiders after the Ravens trade that wasn't, saying, quote, "Soon as they thought I was out, they pull me back in," meaning the Raiders organization where he's spent his entire career since 2019. I mean, if he goes out and has a baller year, good for him. That's not going to change the Ravens calculus. This is a long-term play with multiple years as a factor in their ultimate decision. So best wishes to him. No bad blood over here in terms of covering it, but also not a surprise for how this all shook out.
Yeah, the whole situation is unfortunate. And when there's an unfortunate story, everybody wants to find a bad guy and point fingers. I just think that this is all medical stuff with high stakes. And, that's just the way it fell. And it stinks for Maxx. I think it stinks for Eric DeCosta. I think the Ravens did want him here. Yes, the Ravens were able to salvage it and pivot and get Trey Hendrickson, in large part because they already were talking to him even when they wanted both Maxx and Trey there. And who knows if that ever would have come together, but the conversations already started, according to Trey himself. And so at the end of the day, Maxx seems happy because he even said in there, Bobby, that when he was in Baltimore and he still thought the deal was going down, he's like, dang, look what my Raiders are doing. He's like, you got Linderbaum, you got this guy and that guy. And they spent $280 million in free agency money. So he was like, okay, I got to let that go though, because I'm a Raven now. So even when he was a Raven, he's like, dang, look what my Raiders doing. So when he goes back, he's like, okay. And now we're about, you know what I mean? So He says he's meant to be a Raven. He says God makes no mistakes. So while the whole 5 days were probably super annoying and frustrating for him, understandably, so it was for the Ravens, but he feels like he's where he's meant to be. So let him go back. Let him be happy there. And I'm sure, for the most part, the story can be over until we see all the numbers. And I don't know if he goes off and has 15 sacks, everybody's going to be calling the Ravens idiots. But like you said, this wasn't about this year. It was about 4 years and 2 first-round draft picks. So that is what it is. But outside of that, he's going back to a place. He says God makes no mistakes. He's happy to be there. He's a Raider to the core. Over here, the Ravens pivoted, got Trey Hendrickson. They've moved on, got other guys in free agency. So now seems like everybody salvaged the situation and seems to be happy going forward.
I think we may have one more icing on the cake to fully put this to bed, but it's going to have to be with your permission. So Cam Heyward has a podcast, Pittsburgh Star, defense-wise. And I saw something that just popped up on my timeline. There appears to be some curse words in here.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's censored, but he had a chance to chat with Maxx after all of this happened. Do you want me to throw this up there?
Sure.
Cam Heyward, as we put one final bow on this conversation, and every single one of us, every single one of us is going to hear this for the first time.
Okay.
Off we go.
Brother, actually reached out to Maxx Crosby, and I was like, bro, I don't know if you're staying with the Raiders, but if you are, take care of my brother. Look out for him. And you know what Max's response was?
What?
He said, because I also apologized about. I said I'm sorry to hear about like the Ravens thing falling there. He was like, "Fuck those dudes. I'm staying and fucking with the Raiders." And so I was like, "All right, I can respect that." And so like Maxx has always been like straight up with me, and I've always respected Maxx a lot. And so, I was, it's bitter. I was happy to end with the Ravens personally. I mean, selfishly for him not going to the Ravens, but to say like he's going to be there also made me happy because he's going to be able to take care of a little brother. And I would just say the organization has been very accommodating to my little brother. I was talking last night. They're helping him.
All right. Yeah. So nothing.
There you go. I thought that might be the case. Look,
yeah.
Shocker, right? Shocker.
Yeah.
Yes. He wants to go out and prove the Ravens wrong.
Right.
And he wants to go prove himself right, his doctor right. And Maxx has never shied away from finding that extra edge of motivation. And this will give him, I'm sure, an astronomical amount. And who knows? He may be the defensive player of the year for all we know coming up in 2026. But the Ravens are going to stick to their guns, their principles, and their methods from a medical standpoint. And we'll see who ends up winning this thing in the end. I'm air quoting that, winning it, because both sides are back to where they started. And it's as if nothing ever happened.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually hope that the Ravens doctors are wrong on Maxx. Like, I don't wish, just so that, the Ravens look better at the end of this. Like, I wouldn't wish like a degenerative knee disease on anybody. And Maxx seems like a cool guy, and I think we would have loved him if he were here, So sure. I hope the Ravens doctors are wrong and his surgeon is correct, and wish him nothing but the best, except for when they play the Ravens, of course, just like any other player. And we're going to see where the chips fall.
And with that, we appreciate you hanging with us today on this Wednesday. Over 2,100 concurrents and counting. So big show. Thanks for over 1,200 in the YouTube space. If you could like the video on your way in, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member. We know there's a few new of you, thanks to Douglas H. Brown Sr.'s efforts. We'll get to super chats here in just a second. But first, are you getting a tax refund from the IRS this year? And if you are, what if you use it to buy a home instead of spending it? Your tax refund could help cover a percentage of your down payment, closing costs, paying off debt to boost buying power, or maybe even your moving expenses. Your refund isn't just extra cash. It could be your first step toward building long-term wealth. Closing costs and fees may still apply. But if you have questions, we hope you'll consider reaching out to our friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. This number right here will put you in touch with the Towson branch, 410-663-2222. That's 410-663-2222. You do not need to be a Baltimorean. You do not need to be a Marylander to work with them. They'll work with you all across the country, and we hope that you'll go consider that if you are indeed potentially looking into home buying in 2026. And regardless of whether you are or not, we hope you'll enter yourself into our $100 giveaway this month. It's a gift card that can be used directly for our merch store. That's the vaultpod.com/shop that we dropped last summer. And all you have to do to enter is, as you see on the screen right here, go to Instagram, follow at PRMI Mid-Atlantic. We have all that linked in our show notes. If you're watching in real time, it's pinned in our live chat. And comment on their first post with the hashtag Vault. Tag 3 friends you might be interested in buying a house with. Subscribe to the Vault right here on YouTube. Help us reach 30,000 subscriptions. Turn those notifications on. And if you want to go the extra mile, scan the QR code that you see on the screen. That'll bring you to this Google Forms page. You can copy and paste it right here as well. Fill it out in less than 30 seconds, and you will easily be able to be reached if you win later this month. And that brings us to Super Chats from the aforementioned Douglas H. Brown Sr. for you, partner, DHB Sr.
He says, I have not been available much this spring as I have in the past, but I want to be a reliable supporter of what you two do. I love your partnership and your differing perspectives. I give gifts because I want other others, I don't know, to be able to experience you too. We appreciate that, Douglas. I mean, I was saying Bobby in our pre-show call that it's like Douglas is one of those guys that like he's just always checking in with us and letting us know why he can't be here. That like almost as if he feels like a grandfatherly role to us. And man, we feel your love and we appreciate you.
I totally agree. There's just something very nurturing about him.
Yes.
He also throws around, as we mentioned at the top, 5 channel membership gifts. So 5 new Vaultrons have been gifted memberships through the show, thanks to Douglas's generosity. And it looks like one of his grandkids there. He's updated his profile photo too. So that's pretty cool. What a privilege it is to be a grandchild of Douglas, assuming that he treats them 1,000 times better than we get treated. And we get treated pretty darn well too. So Douglas, great to have you with us today. Dream says Max met EDC and EDC had a blank face. That's EDC staying up late at night, wishing he had his picks back. And Ledford is at Penn State. Pro Day. Venga. We've got a quick hit on that coming up in just a bit, Quion. Don't you worry. And that brings us to Gordon Chase, who's celebrating 9 months of channel membership.
He says, happy Wednesday to all and have a blessed day. Same to you, Gordon. Thank you.
And how about St. Matthew?
Says, I'm proud at how ruthless / cutthroat EDC is. Then again, kind of disappointed that they treated Max like he was a 5th round pick / talent. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. How many people, by the way, get like a first class flight? And I get that I had to go to DC, but then come to the facility and get an MRI and it's turned around and 4 or 5 doctors have looked at your MRI in a matter of hours. My husband's a doctor and I wouldn't get that treatment. He would not be able to pull those strings. Like for all of this to happen. And again, I understand the outcome is not what he wanted, but to pretend that they treated him like a 5th round pick, that's just not true. And I think it just shows that you don't know what like a normal day in greeting an NFL player is and how quickly to get those results and have all these doctors with all the patients that they have to be able to put that to the side and come check on you right now. 4 or 5 different doctors. Like, I'm sorry, that's first class treatment.
He was treated really well. It just didn't work out in everyone's favor
right.
for what was initially expected to work out. Eric Hill is with us today. What's up, Eric? If no one tells you today they love you, just know that I do. I am rolling on the road today. I hope everyone's well. Stay safe and be well. Hashtag stop the 22. Eric, you do the same. Safe travels out there on the road, brother. I'll be heading up north your way later tonight to Albany. And Captain Jay Schaefer's with us today.
Says, yo, he was part of the Los Angeles Raiders. Don't tell me that we have worse traffic than the LA area. I know I-95 and the Beltway ways are tough, but come on, man. Glad we got Trey. He's not a complainer.
Captain, I think you might be onto something there. Greater LA, forget about it. Just forget about it. Kobe Pruitt's with us, and he writes, wanted Crosby, but the issue is he damaged the cartilage in his knee, which does not have blood vessels to heal itself. May need more surgery to repair. Kobe, thank you. And Douglas says, I do think of you two as grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
You and me.
We were feeling that way. Thank you. All of my grandparents have passed on. My dad is almost 90. So yeah, I could use another grandfather.
Legend. He's still kicking.
Still kicking.
Kobe says, I'm sorry, but it's show business, not show friends. And that brings us to Olu.
Olu says being called shady from someone representing a team that lives in the gray area. Just win, baby. See you on the grass, sucker. LFG Ravens. LJ great. LJ great. Well, and what's funny is like they mentioned in here, I mean, Crosby has played well against the Ravens. I think the 2 times he's played against the Ravens, he said that he was, what was he, AFC Player of the Week? So he's gotten, he's gotten his hits in for sure.
Oh,
but
he made sure to mention that.
Would you, if you were a betting man, which I know you're not, if you were a betting man, and this is nothing against Max, it's just the 2 organizations, like who has the higher likelihood of making the playoffs this year?
It's not a rebuilding team, you know. Hey, we'll see what Mendoza can do. Can he bring a little bit of that Indiana magic to Vegas? And they've spent a lot. Look, they spent a lot of money, and he gets to work with Tyler now, which is going to be advantageous for him, having never logged a snap in his NFL career. but there's a lot of newness there. And while Brady's in the building as a minority owner, I guess he doesn't spend that much time in the building from what I've read, but just the entire operation is so new. So yeah, how can you not go with what feels like is just a piece or two away? We've said that for years, but there's too much talent in Baltimore to not pick that team. Olu, you're hilarious. See you on the grass, sucker, he says. Olu's already feeling it, baby. You would have thought it was training camp in this beat.
Or week one.
Appreciate you guys. And thanks for a great attendance today. Over 2,100 concurrents. Let's continue the conversation. The Ravens reunion that could have been, that wasn't. Marquise Hollywood Brown, Sarah had a chance to catch up with Acho and the Speakeasy crew. LaShawn McCoy, there's others on there, but those were the two that had a chance to catch up with Hollywood, as I did in San Francisco in February. Good, solid interview. And what did I tell you on the way off? It was off camera, but he kind of said under his breath, like, hey, maybe I will be back in Baltimore. That's the way I took it. And then he told these guys this yesterday, not long after signing with the Philadelphia Eagles.
What other teams you was considering?
Man, what's crazy is like I was really considering going back to Baltimore. Got good relationships there. Just really, I let my agent really handle it, like till it got down to what it got down to. Because this like my second time in free agency, so like I kind of don't want the small talk. I let him deal with it. And when it got down to who really want me, who he think really, who's really showing their interest, then I want to talk and get involved. But other than that, I really, leave it up to God, man. I just leave it up to God, and that's where he led me. I'm blessed and happy to be here.
So I guess all that talk about him potentially returning, there was something to it. Remember, there was buzz about his return last month when he had posted something on Instagram with a purple heart, and Lamar Jackson commented on that and said purple heart means he's going to become a Raven again, or something to that effect. And so that sounds like it was a real possibility. It sounds like the Ravens made him an offer. He didn't reveal what that was. And at the end of the day, what made him choose between the two is he just felt like the Ravens just kind of wanted him and the Eagles more wanted him. And from my perspective, we've actually talked a couple of times now in a couple of days in a row here, Bobby. We've talked about the different free agent wide receivers that the Ravens could bring in. And for sure, the chat has been against it. We've done the polls. The minority of people would like to have seen Hollywood back. So the Ravens showing mediocre interest in him reflects how I would have felt. Like, sure, if Hollywood would have returned, like, fine. Pair him up with Zay Flowers. They're kind of similar players, different, but kind of similar in that he's not like the big physical X wide receiver that the Ravens sometimes seem to be lacking, and who Rashad Bateman is inconsistent at becoming. And so, like, would you welcome the production? Sure. But was it exactly the right fit? Not necessarily. And so if the Ravens were showing tepid interest, that's kind of how I would be. And if he felt that, good for him. Maybe the Eagles did want him more. Maybe they have a spot where, like, he complements. I mean, they have AJ Brown there. They have their big X receiver, unless they trade him away. And so maybe he fits the Eagles more, and that's why they showed more interest. So yeah, I'm always going to go where I'm most wanted, because I will be more useful and have a chance to shine more. So good for him. But if the Ravens were tepid, that just reflects how I felt.
Marquise, a year ago, re-signed with Kansas City on a 1-year deal worth up to 11. This week's in Philly, according to Schultz, is 1 year up to 6.5. So you see the direction in which he's heading in his career. He needs to stay healthy, which for the most part he was last year in Kansas City. He is a year or two removed from a pretty significant sternoclavicular injury that sidelined him for a chunk of the 2024 season. And when I say chunk, he played in just 2 games for the Chiefs. Last year in 16 games for Kansas City, 6 of which were starts, he had 49 receptions on 74 targets for 587 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. He went for 12 yards per reception. They have Zay Flowers on this team. We know that measurables-wise, they're similar, but they play the game differently from a physical standpoint, in my opinion. So we talked all along, Sarah, as you kind of just alluded to, like that maybe the better fit for him is Philadelphia, because all offseason long, we've been talking about, and I know many in our live chat have been talking about, hey, can they go get a Denzel Boston in the draft? Can they go get a DeAndre Hopkins as a vet and bring him back? A Keenan Allen as a vet? A Jawan Jennings that would be probably more of a splash, if you will, in free agent dollars to complement what they already have in their room rather than emulate or mirror what they already have in their room. So perhaps this is best for both parties.
Absolutely. And then meanwhile, in addition to talking with Hollywood Brown, according to Adam Schefter, the Ravens also brought in former Browns tight end and now free agent David Njoku. Apparently he visited with the Ravens yesterday. Sounds like he left without a deal. So not sure if that's a signal that, they couldn't get a deal, or if the Ravens even offered one, or maybe they're just like, hey, we're interested. Go check out your market. Let us know what you're getting elsewhere, and maybe we'll match it. This one I'm sure makes Femi Ayamadejo happy. He's been in the chat and he's been around saying that he would love to pair Njoku with Mark Andrews. We've talked about this before. This one still surprises me a bit, only because they do have Mark Andrews. They did bring in their Charlie Kolar replacement. And so to me, it seems like that leaves room for 1 to 2 draft picks. And as Dave Burglar tweeted yesterday, he can't find the bottom of the tight end draft class, meaning it's super deep and you can get guys that can contribute right away. So if they did sign Njoku, whoever the Ravens draft, it's going to be tough for them to get on the field. So again, this is one of those signings where it's just like, I don't hate it. Njoku has been a beast. He may be slowing down. He's had a few injuries, but he would produce and he'd be a nice target for Lamar Jackson. This one just surprised me a little bit, given what they already have and what the draft offers.
Yeah, so Dane Brugler is who you're referring to there as a draft analyst. But that was one of yesterday's slides that you brought in, like you said. Njoku's got a lot of familiarity with the North. To your point, he and Mark Andrews are essentially the same age. David will turn 30 in July. He was a first-round pick all the way back in 2017. He's been with Cleveland his entire career. He was a Pro Bowler in 23. I happen to think highly of him from 2020, that same year, when he had a fire pit accident and came away with second-degree burns, yet played 48 hours after.
Yeah,
I think that says something about your resilience and the way that you play the game. So, but could the Ravens buy low here? He's been banged up over the last couple of years.
Right.
And so maybe this is an opportunity to, yes, they want to get younger at the position, and they will at some point throughout draft weekend. But could this be too good of I say investment? You're barely having to invest in a guy that has struggled of late, part of which I'm sure has to do with the quarterback carousel that he's dealt with in Cleveland over the last couple of years, particularly last year where he had 3 different quarterbacks in Flacco, Shador, and Gabriel. So maybe there's an opportunity there. It won't break the bank. You feel like you can bring in some production. You feel like he can sub in and replace some of what you asked Isaiah Likely to do last year, and then you're going to go get a rookie. And you got Durham Smythe to potentially be that Kohler replacement, and you're hoping that Andrews will sip from the fountain of youth. And so I suppose that could be the thinking here. But he's got to stay on the field. He's had a multiple knee injuries over the last couple of years.
Multiple. But when he's out there, woo, to your point, boy, is he a beast. I want to look up his stats right now just to get, exact numbers on where he's been. And I will say, like, when the Ravens have had to play him over the years, he's been tough. And I do think that when Joe Flacco, remember when the Browns first grabbed Joe Flacco when he was comeback player of the year, like he and Njoku were on the same page. So, I mean, so he'd been pretty good for 21, 22, and 23. In 24, he played in 11 games. In 25, he played in 12. So that's missing some chunks.
The numbers reflect
his numbers reflect that. When he played for 11 games in 24, he had 505 yards and 5 touchdowns. In 25, last year, he only had 293 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, you know, he's not going to be asked to be the number one guy when you have the tight ends that you already have here. So to your point, if you're able to get him on a small deal, then there might be reason to sign him, other than just that, depending on who you get in the draft. So I just wonder if Njoku's somebody that you have the visit, you kind of see where he is at health-wise and say, hey, go do your thing in free agency, but we'd maybe revisit this after the draft.
You got to get younger. You have to get younger at that position.
Yes.
And if you want to help, if you feel like he can help that room differentiate itself and become deeper, and it makes sense numbers-wise, then great. But going into 6 weeks from now, 5 weeks from now, coming up on a month from now, you have got to get younger, and you got to get more dynamic, and you got to go grab, you know, a player that is going to allow you to cash in on his rookie window, knowing that in a couple of years' time, Mark Andrews may no longer be a part of the calculation. He'll be a future Ring of Honor member, but you and I have spoken at length about that extension that he signed in season. That is not going to hamstring the Ravens for years to come. And if he falls off, there's flexibility there to not have to eat a ton of money for the foreseeable future. So you hope that doesn't happen, but you obviously have to plan for the future as well.
Absolutely. And then meanwhile, Bobby, of course, this is just, what's the equivalent of music to my ears? Just something for my eyes.
The gospel.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but Dwayne Lefford, the Ravens' new offensive line coach, was on site for Venga Ioane's pro day at Penn State. And Ledford with his Ravens jacket on, I'm about to show you a video. You can see Ravens up printed on the back, and you still have Venga in his pro or Penn State gear. But here he is working out the potential, according to some former ESPN analysts. Who was it again, Bobby, that called him a future Hall of Famer?
Todd McShay.
Todd McShay. I hope this is not the closest the Ravens get to Venga. It's not much, but I love it. But it's good. Listen, they're doing their scouting. They're looking at, I'm sure, all the offensive linemen in this draft, along with all other positions. But to see Ledford there being on the field to work him out, that's kind of fun. And I'm sure he has a really good idea of what Venga is capable of if the Ravens were to bring him here to Baltimore.
Pro days are always interesting this time of year. You just hope that everybody stays healthy. Hope that everyone stays healthy. Just in the wake of David Ajabo leaving to go to Miami, we all remember what happened to him on his pro day at Michigan. Just feel for a guy like that. He's going to get another shot to go resurrect his career with the Dolphins. But yeah, look, I think Dwayne Ledford's, when you think about what he's going to be able to bring given his track record, I don't know if you can overstate some of the, how do I want to put this? I think with all the offensive line projections and knowing that right now they haven't exactly, one, broken the bank at that position and retooling it, nor two, have they done anything sexy. But I wonder if Dwayne Ledford will make up for some of that, given under his tutelage, his track record, his resume, and what he's been able to do successfully. You go back to the Falcons last year, he had multiple injuries at guard, and they were still one of the best units in the entire league. Bodes well for, it's not apples to apples, but that bodes well for what he's able to do with less And if that's an indication of what he's bringing to Baltimore, then maybe he should be given the benefit of doubt in a sense. That doesn't take away from what I know you're calling for. And that is more work to be done, more swings to be taken in the draft, maybe even at 14th overall, maybe even another free agency splash that's still to come, although that seems unlikely at this point. But maybe we should put a little bit more stock into Dwayne.
Well, I think we do. I think we put plenty of stock in Dwayne. At least I do. That being said, like Dwayne also isn't saying, hey, bring back Fa'alele because I know I could be the one to develop him. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a player's game. And so, yes, you can always coach people up. And it sounds like he has a track record of doing that. But all coaches would be like, yeah, this is a player's game. And so if he were really that good, it's like, we'll just re-sign Fa'alele and Lefford will sprinkle some pixie dust and everybody will be good. So not that you're saying that. I'm just saying there's obviously a middle ground of giving him credit, which I do think we do a lot on this show based off of his past results. And at the same time, also recognizing that he himself is not getting on the field. These guys still have to do it.
You're going to be looking closely at guys in the developmental camp. You know, what does he do for Emory Jones? What does he do for a third-year player in Roger Rosengarten at right tackle? You know, what becomes of Andrew Voorhees?
Second round, what can he do with him? You know,
sure. Yeah. What becomes of Andrew Voorhees? And there's going to be specific players that, you know, with all due respect to the vets like Ronnie, like Simpson, there's going to be specific players that don't have as much service time under their belts as those guys do that we'll be watching closely when Dwayne kind of takes hold of the program. So certainly something interesting to watch coming up.
Should we do a couple super chats before we get to the final quick hits?
I think so, yeah. Okay. We left off with...
I think we're here. Dreams.
Olu. So Dreams picks us back up, and he says, good luck to my bro Tyler Banks at his Ole Miss Pro Day today. Unlikely that he gets drafted, but hopefully this helps him sign with a team as an undrafted rookie. Seen it before. We'll see it again. Rafike Tucker, thanks Dreams, is celebrating 11 months of channel membership with us.
You read this one. I like reading nice things to me. It feels weird to read it.
It's your turn.
It says, I'm thankful we have Sarah's experience and perspective from the front office. The bottom line, as Max said, it wasn't meant to be.
Hey,
hopefully everybody can move forward being happy.
I'll piggyback for a second. You weren't in the building. You weren't there. You made that clear. Mm-hmm. You did a great job of offering up your perspective all the time that you spent in there. So well done in our opening topic. Evan writes, I didn't really hear Marquise say anything to suggest the Ravens made an offer or that they were even talking. He just said he was interested.
You didn't hear anything that suggested that there was an offer in there? I did. I mean, he didn't come out and say it. And this is all speculative for both of us. But what he said when it came down to what it was, then he was like, then I knew, okay, I wasn't going to go there. So I don't know. That is something. You know, maybe we interpret it differently, and that's fine. We're speculating because he didn't come out and say it. And so it's fine to say, I don't know that that's the conclusion. But to say there wasn't anything in there to suggest it, I would disagree.
I'll bring you back to a couple months ago when we were off camera.
When you were there, yeah.
So maybe all right. I mean, that's Evan's prerogative for this episode that he sat down with. But I can tell you, as I already have, what he told me face to face when we were in San Fran together. Thanks, Ev. Femi's here, and he says Smythe is in Ricard's role, not a receiver at all. You need a receiving tight end and a backup for Andrews. You only have 2 legitimate tight ends. You still draft a tight end. Obviously, DeCosta said last week, Sarah, they were kind of phasing out the fullback. Mm-hmm. So perhaps Smythe picks up some of those roles from a blocking standpoint. That's all he's pretty much done. He's only got, I think, 136 receptions over his career, which dates back to 2018. And that was mostly what he did last year for Declan Doyle in his lone season with the Bears. So Femi's probably onto something here.
Obviously, he's picking up some of Ricard's. I think also some of Charlie's. So to his point, there's room for perhaps more than one, especially if you really do see him only in Ricard's role. But I do see him a little bit more than Ricard in that maybe he is better at route running. But actually, to look at his numbers from last year, he had minimal, like definitely under 10 targets, maybe under 5. So That's fair. That's fair. If you see him as Ricard's replacement, then yeah, there's room for another tight end easily. And I mean a veteran tight end, not just the draft.
Well, let's be honest too. If he's catching footballs in Baltimore, much like Pat did at a really small sample size, this is going to be off schedule stuff. This is going to be when a play goes awry. This is going to be when, the 5th, 6th, 7th option when Lamar's in, scatter mode and you're just trying to dump the ball off for positive yardage. That's when Smythe's going to come into play.
Well, that and maybe just the occasional, we need to throw it to him so I'm not like being predictable with my offense. You know what I mean? That when Smythe's out there, we're running. So,
predictability. You know something about predictability? Kobe says picking Simpson over Teller just feels wrong.
Both at about $10 million per year. Yeah, both at about $10 million per year, but Wyatt being a 2-year deal and Simpson being a 3-year deal that easily could be a 2-year deal.
Thanks, KP. Appreciate you. And T. Martin lands on his feet. He's going back to college. He's been in the Ravens organization since 2021. And most recently served as Lamar Jackson's quarterbacks coach. Lane Kiffin, as Jordan Schultz noted earlier, is bringing T back to college. He's going to be an offensive analyst for the LSU Tigers. Sarah, good for T.
Yeah, good for him. Happy for him. That's got to be tough. Like when the head coach is let go, that usually the whole staff is gone with him. And so, I'm not sure if he would have preferred to still be in the NFL. He was there working with Lamar Jackson 1 second, but going to LSU isn't a bad thing either. But he'll be an offensive analyst, not the quarterback's coach. So, but he'll work his way back up. T's a great guy and a great coach.
Yeah, that's the program you want to go to. They're gonna turn that thing around quickly, based on Lane's track record. But look, we learned a little bit about that process in January, right? Like when you make the head coach and when you make that hire and then he brings in Declan Doyle, not everybody's going to be retained. And it's less of a reflection maybe of T and more about the familiarity and the preference that Declan has, I'm sure, in bringing who we now know is Woolfolk from the Arizona Cardinals to be Lamar Jackson's new quarterback's coach. So that's the way the staff has rounded out. And T goes back to college. Major Offense and Alyssa Thomas, thank you both for believing in what we're building. This is your monthly shout out because of the support that you give us through Patreon, and we appreciate you guys. It's patreon.com/Ravens Vault Podcast if you're interested in learning more. And you and I both have flights to catch. And we will be working remotely tomorrow. No problem at all with our schedule change. We'll be back live at noon. And then you will be solo. And guess who rejoins the program at 12:30 on Friday? Derek Coleman from All 22. Coach Coleman's going to drop by. He's got a new database to tell us all about. But more importantly, or just as importantly, because anything Coach does turns to gold in the film community, he's going to go in depth and break down Trey Hendrickson with you. I will be on day 2 of a multi-day bachelor party trip that I'm hosting in Killington, Vermont with a bunch of 30-year-old dudes. So let's see what comes of a cabin weekend when we try to turn back the clock. And based on the boys in the group chat, Sarah, they're already buzzing. Wish me well.
Ooh, you're going to have a blast. I wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Excited for you.
Thank you. Safe travels to you.
Appreciate it.
Safe travels to me. And we will be back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. As always, thanks to Primary Residential Mortgage for the continued support of the program. Guys, if you haven't already done so, please click on the link that we have included in our show notes. If you're watching us in real time on the way out, it's a pinned comment in our live chat. Consider entering yourself into this month's $100 gift card giveaway to our merch line. For Sarah, I'm Bobby signing off. Thanks for spending some time with us, Voltrons. And as always, we'll catch you tomorrow right here inside the vault.